And your point about citation needed is most important.
Yeah, like what? I mean, it's citation needed for everything, but unfortunately, the truth of the matter is there is no citation in the world for this because to the point that you've been beating to death, everything is subjective. So why are you crying about this?
Welcome to Racking Our Brains. I'm Paul.
And I'm Abdul, and today we're discussing something that we've been thinking about, and I hope you'll think about it too.
I'm most excited to learn how other people feel about topics I'm passionate about.
We know you have something to share, so leave a comment below.
Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get our newest discussion. Let's turn this mother out.
We're turning this mother out. You just sent me something. I'm Abdul. That's Paul. Paul just sent Abdul something, and we said we got to do this immediately. And I think this is a delicate subject for a lot of people, and we can have a tangential discussion about why the listening audience or society has become ultra sensitive to this topic and other topics in general, and whether or not that's the way we should operate. But I want to be respectful, and I understand that. I don't think we need trigger warnings or anything, but what I worry about is we run into the danger of anyone who may need to hear this immediately dismissing it and feeling like we're not taking it seriously enough. I think you feel a little bit differently. We were joking about that before we got on the air, but go ahead and introduce to the audience what you came across and what you sent to me.
Gotcha. So Perspectives LM, I forgot their names already. One starts with the L, obviously. One starts with an M.
Lyzeth and Martina.
That's who it is, our new best friends. So the topic of the video is dating while fat. You're pretty for a big girl. You're pretty for a big girl. I mean, not, see, there we go.
You can make that joke. You can make that joke. That's a joke about punctuation and homophones, so that's fine.
First of all, it's homophone. Don't be a homophobe. Don't be a homophobe by saying homophone. It's not a homophone. It's a homophone. It originated in a gay brothel. Now stop it.
Continue.
So I thought it was great because the I mean, normally I would not watch something like this because I'm literally not interested. But I thought it was great that two fat people were comfortable calling themselves fat, were comfortable calling themselves a myriad of ways to describe their physical appearance, and were comfortable having just a very honest conversation. Now, do I disagree with the vast majority of what they said? Disagree is probably not the right word. I disagree with some of what they said, but I also think a lot of what they said is kind of like insignificant, right? Like it's just like they kind of just described humanity and they're lamenting that, not pointing out some specific, I think, defect in societies in general and the U.S. society, which is the one they live in and the one we live in. So that's what I wanted to respond to. And I've already reached out to them and said, hey, if you want to have a conversation, I'd love to have a conversation about it. But anyway, so basically it's dating while fat. These are two young ladies who consider themselves fat. And they're just talking about dating and men and women and ideas of beauty and things like that. Now, before we go there, Abdul did want to set me straight on something because I'm on a dating app and I am not plus size. I am minus size, and I make it pretty obvious that I make it very clear that I'm looking for people who are physically fit and, you know, who exercise on a regular basis and do very athletic things in their spare time. And so every now and then, way more now than then, but I get like really, really, really big women who reach out to me and say, hey, what's up? And so as a joke, I sent it to Abdul, and I said, like, why is this happening? Or shouldn't I be annoyed by this? And his stance was no.
Yeah, your exact words were, "So I'm not supposed to be mad at this question mark." And I guess I'm being particular then, right? And I think we'll get into a lot of words have meaning. I think you and I agree on that in general. I think for this video that Martina and Lyzeth put up, I will probably talk about words having meaning at least once or twice, very specific meaning. And so I'm responding to you literally saying, so I'm not supposed to be mad at this. I'm saying, no, I don't think you need to be mad at it.
Okay.
So, but you just reinterpreted that as, oh, I was kind of annoyed by it. And the context you gave was people should know I'm just not looking for it. I was specific about what I'm asking for in a dating partner, and they should be aware that they are specifically or explicitly not what I'm looking for. And therefore, how dare they reach out? Is that where you're saying the annoyance or anger comes in?
Well, let's talk about the words have meanings part of it, right? So I think within the context, we're not talking about the enslavement of African Americans or something like that. Like, that's something I can be mad at. Like, we're talking about whether or not I asked for pepperoni and they put sausage on there. Right? Like, should I be mad at that? I'm not going to say I'm annoyed. And if I say I'm pretty fucking pissed that they put sausage in that pepperoni, you're not going to correct my vernacular, right? Like, you're not going to say, bro, you're not mad. You're annoyed. Come on.
I'm asking you. You just said now I was annoyed. In the text, it was mad. So, do you literally mean mad? As mad as you would be if someone gave you sausage instead of pepperoni?
No, I was putting those things in the same category and juxtaposing them to something that as heinous as crimes against humanity or things that you actually want to physically change. Like,
Gotcha. Okay, so you're saying
reach out to the app and say, hey, put this lady in,
blocked and reported.
farmersonly.com jail.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So and I'm reading literally. That's the danger.
Farmersonly.com.
Yeah.
Reach out to me. My name is
Farmer Paul.
Bales of hay.
Okay, so we're talking about the dangers of text and taking things literally, so that's fine. Okay, you're clarifying now. I'm cool with that, and that's a
it's no big deal. It's like when you're like, bro, if I'm a bank and I tell people, hey, this is what you got to do to apply for this loan, and you don't have the credit score or the income, and you're not even a human being, you're a fucking raccoon. What are we doing here? Like, you're not gonna get the loan. You're wasting my time. But anyway, like, what does that person think is gonna happen? That I'm gonna see her and be like, oh shit. This whole time, I did not like 400-pound women, and I just realized I didn't know, bro. I've never seen a 402-pound woman, and now I'm totally different.
No. Well, here's okay to tie it. Let's jump into the video right away, and I have a series of timestamps, but Martina makes this point.
I'm sorry, Martina's on the right hand side, the light skin,
left hand side.
Oh, so the brown skin person.
Yes.
Okay.
And okay, so I found both. At 9:38, she says, and she's referring to her TikTok feed, which, by the way, listening audience, please, please, please. If there's one thing we want to do.
Wait, did you go to her TikTok feed?
No. I'm just referring to what she says, and she brings up the fact that she's getting information from TikTok.
Gotcha.
It's not that no one should get information from any social media platform. I think there's probably a way to understand how that information is being delivered to you, by what source, via what platform. But if it's just, I heard something on TikTok, please, I don't know, try to do some research outside of that. I don't think we've touched on it. We call the channel Racking Our Brains. Hopefully it's coming through in our discussions. But a lot of what we want to get across is, I personally would like to see the world be a more thinking world, right? A world where people think through their actions, their feelings, their interactions with others, and not just, I heard something that makes me feel good about what I already thought, and therefore I'm going to stop thinking, right? Rant over. So she says, according to her TikTok.
On TikTok, one of the things that at least comes up on my FYP is that men, heterosexual men, cis heterosexual men, are dating to please their friends, and you see that, I think, a lot, teenagers and 20s, maybe 30s, I don't, and up, but they're dating to like please their friends. Like they want that hot girl, and that hot girl is always considered a size that's under 5 with, a certain body type. And then if you are a bigger girl, people always say, well, you're big in the right spots, like what.
And then again, at 14:30, Martina says,
I would love if one day if I don't know, all of a sudden, boom, like we woke up one morning and people dated and married the people that they're really attracted to. Because I do believe that there are more men out here who are attracted to big women. And I think they're trying to fit some stereotype of the woman they're supposed to be with. Now, don't get me wrong. If you don't like big girls, that's you. That's cool. That's your preference, whatever people want to call it nowadays. But I do feel that it would be nice if people could just date who they wanted to date and be comfortable with that.
So that's twice in the video.
Okay, Professor X, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? Go ahead. What are you in my head?
That's twice. You
don't want to have sex with a white woman.
That's twice in the video. So this person that reached out to you on the dating app, I wonder if she thinks the same thing that Martina thinks. Where, okay, Paul says something on his profile. He may just be trying to fit a stereotype of who guys should date. And maybe he will really like me for being bigger than what
Bro,
thinks.
That's why I told you for the last 2 months I've been going to KKK meetings just hitting on chicks like a fucking banshee.
Clayton Bigsby.
Yeah, those white women don't really hate me. They love me deep down inside. Bro, you're a crazy person. Now shut up.
You're not going to do the impression? No.
Clayton Bigsby?
No. Go.
Oh, my baby's mother, Natalie Portman? No.
I'm just, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to clip out you doing the impression.
And just like sling it in there.
Use it. I'll use it there. And then I'll use it whenever I feel like you're talking about people you think are crazy, but you don't happen to bring up the quote. So yeah, right. That was one that immediately stuck out. It was a second note at 9 minutes in. And then I was interested when I heard it again at 14, whatever. That is a massive leap and massive assumption. And so I started a rant on, if you hear on TikTok.
I apologize. I'm doing the timeout signal and you can't see me. I'm going to need you to use a more accurate term than leap.
That's the one I wanted to go with.
She's fabricating. She's fabricating information.
Well, again, I was just about to refer to, I said in my rant, be careful what you hear on social media. Try to do some research outside of that to validate it. Don't just believe it because it makes you feel good about what you already think. So fabrication is one thing, right? I think it's a leap to assume that by anybody. But she's hearing this somewhere else and going, you know what? That would be awesome if that was true. I genuinely feel that that's what's here I am, I guess, assuming what's in her head. And people will respond and they'll say, oh, so you know what's going on in my head? I guess I have no way to debate that. But
neither does she, and she's the one who's initiating the claim.
Exactly. You have to prove to an audience, not me specifically, not Paul, but you have to prove to an audience that that is the case. You have to have some cis hetero men who are just dating women to fit a stereotype anonymous.
Wait,
and they're admitting that, yeah, you know what? I've spent the last 12 years of my life dating women that I thought my friends would find attractive, but actually I don't find attractive and I find bigger women attractive. If you have that, if there is an anonymous society like that, and you can get whatever, like interviews where people don't show their appearance and they're saying this and it's somehow verifiable, because I don't even know how you'd verify that. You'd have to prove that they actually, I don't know, are dating bigger women on the side or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Then all of a sudden, then maybe you have a point. But until then, like you said, it's beyond a leap. It's possibly a fabrication. It's just weird to say, you know what? People are dating people. Imagine that. I guess really try to imagine that. Could you? Well, you know what? I just stopped myself because.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, imagine dating people you weren't really attracted to for either your whole life. She talks about people getting married for either your whole life to the point of marriage, or even just for a significant number of years.
Bro, I couldn't date somebody I'm not attracted to for 15 minutes.
I feel the same way, and so I'm trying to be careful about.
No, right. So let me just jump in real quick. Sorry. So when I say fabrication, what she's saying happens, right? Like there's no such thing as that doesn't happen in the human experience, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't say to you, bro, dudes don't fuck goats. There is a dude fucking a goat right now somewhere, right?
Yeah, and actually, when I stopped myself, I was thinking, as I said, people don't date people they're not attracted to. But I imagine
They definitely do. But she's making it seem way more prevalent than whatever people may admit to.
well, I just wanted to acknowledge, someone who's a closeted gay person probably has had to go through that in their lives, right? Where you're literally fitting into larger society. But it was weird to me in this. So that's a good example, I think, of, okay, that's happening. But this was weird because it's just, you're worried about what your friends think. I don't know that it's at the same level, right? There was a massive stigma, gay people being killed. It was illegal until some part of the 20th century in many areas of the world. It's still illegal and punishable by death in some areas of the world. Like, there is a big reason to say, okay, I can't show the world the way I really feel. But what type of actual woman, or, if you're a woman, what type of actual man you're attracted to, and you would date someone that you're not actually physically attracted to, that seems like a massive stretch. A massive stretch.
No, I think once again, I think she's, and maybe your words are more apropos, but maybe they're both apropos, right? So she is taking a stretch of reality, although she did not confirm the reality, right? She did not speak of a baseline amount.
Right.
Like, oh, okay, yeah, certain people do it. And that's another thing, is like, there's a lot of oughts and shoulds in this fucking conversation. Especially the one on the left-hand side. I forgot what her name is.
Martina.
So people are just bad people and they're horrible. And that is true. But that's not what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about is people's preferences. And until you get into their heads, you don't know what their preference is. So why... I have to take a breath because I took copious notes. They said a lot of things, specifically Martina. But one of the things she said was,
and most of the time it is. I think it's especially for straight men, they're only dating people for how they look. I don't know at what point do men not date for how women look.
At what age do men stop dating for looks? Where are you getting any of this evidence? Everything you're saying is anecdotal. Right? So don't talk about men. Just talk about the men that you've experienced. You can't extrapolate that. You just can't. Not if you're going to condemn or come to conclusions that other people need to act, to interact with. Right? Like, I understand that me as a person, I'm going to use my experiences to interact with my world because I can't do anything else other than that. Although I can do some research and then blend those two things. My experience with the external research of other people's experience, and then try to meet in middle ground, or just take somebody else's word for it in that one situation, whatever the case may be. But she's taking her experience, and I guess these fucking TikToks, and saying, yeah, man, men are just, the double standard. What else did she say?
Well, I mean, I didn't get to that part, but that's interesting because it contradicts what she says about people dating people they're not really attracted to. Right? If you're saying...
I don't think she's trying to be consistent. And really quickly, I wanted to, not correct, but I wanted to say something about that, what you said about people who dating people or dating people to impress their friends. Like, I don't think anything she said is weird. Like, literally nothing she said is weird, in the sense that it is human nature to me, right? People get married, Abdul, because that's what their parents wanted them to do. Forget about who the fuck they marry. They get married. People who don't want to get married get married. People who don't want to have kids because that's their culture. People who don't really want to marry a religious person because they're lying about their religiosity and blah, blah, blah. So people are lying and placating their environment all the fucking time. So the fact that you're making this a big deal just tells me that you're somewhat of you're still a little kid, right? Like you're like, yo, I happen to be somebody that the general population does not fawn over, right? Because a person, right? So she does make the point of, did you get to the point where both of them were talking about it's important to have friends who understand the fat experience?
No.
No, right? So they were talking about that. I don't think you have to understand the fat experience to be sympathetic and to be empathetic and to respect them and to whatever. Like, I've never been fat, so whatever. But I don't, unless I'm potentially going to make love to you, I don't care what you physically look like, right? But I think for them, they kept talking about society, and like it was this. And I'm sorry for railroading you. Excuse me. You said it was a contradiction between at what age do men stop dating for looks, and what was the other thing?
And then positing that some people aren't even dating the people they're attracted to by looks. They're dating people they think other people might find those people attractive. Sorry, there was a lot of pronouns.
So I think maybe there is a chance that she could say that both of those things, can coexist very comfortably. And I'm going to give it a little bit of credence by saying the man who's dating for looks could also still be dating for the looks that he thinks is most acceptable to his environment and will be most profitable, i.e. other people will laud and respect him. But people do that. Like, once again, I don't understand the significance of almost anything that they say other than people who are mean to fat people, right? If you want to have that conversation, abso-fucking-lutely. But once again, they even talked about how kids are mean in school, and so it starts very young. Abso-fucking-lutely. But the problem is, are the parents doing anything about it? Are you having a community conversation so that the kids are raised different? Or are you just saying that kids will be kids? Well, they won't. No. Like the kids of today are different than the kids of 30, 40 years ago. Not in a qualitative sense of bad or good, but just different because the parents are different and the technology is different and the society is different and the options and education, everything is different. So there's an opportunity to impact how these people think from a very young age. So once again, there's two conversations. There's a conversation of, are people mean to fat people? Abso-fucking-lutely. But also, are people mean to black people? Are people mean to Asians? Are people mean to mentally handicapped people? Are people mean to really skinny women? You can't tell me that people who are a 2 and a 3 and a 4 or whatever, those really small sizes, that they don't feel. I guarantee you we can find a million, and I'm going to stop now, but I guarantee you we can find a million podcasts or conversations like this. You just have to substitute fat for a million other physical attributes. Poor is another one that I'm going to call it. It's not a physical attribute, but it is something that you can almost determine by looking at somebody. Like, that person isn't wearing fancy clothes, isn't wearing nice clothes, isn't well groomed, whatever the case may be, right? That is just how the shit goes. Is it me, Abdul? Or is there not a ton of big women out there who have husbands and have families and are ostensibly happy, right? Like, obviously you can't go into somebody's house, but there are a ton of plus size women who have husbands and families and seem to be happy. Like, I don't see this overwhelming, like, just big women just can't find any love. I don't see that.
Well, on that note of big women can't find any love, I didn't know if that was going to be their point. And there are times throughout it where it seems they are lamenting that. Dating is difficult for someone who is heavier. Mm-hmm. And then there are times where it's, I am just who I am. Some people are actually just happy this way.
Did they ever say that? Did they ever say that?
Maybe I'm just reading into that through some of this stuff, because there was just some defensive talk. Like, so Martina talks about not all skinny people are actually healthy. And so she's complaining that maybe society has created this idea that mistakenly created this idea that skinny is healthier. So it's at 1509. First, she leads off by saying this is a lot about the patriarchy. She doesn't get into how a society led by men or males creates this idea, but she says,
but again, this is a lot about the patriarchy. And I feel that this whole idea of skinny being right, again, I don't know where this comes from. I don't know where this stems from. I don't know the history of why we think skinny people are way better and they have a better life, and that they're so healthy, because a number of skinny people eat really fucked up and are really not that
healthy.
Yeah, and that's always the thing. Like, people look at big people just in general and think, oh, they're so unhealthy. But there are a number of big people that do work out. They don't have diabetes. They don't have hypertension, or whatever the other ideas you've made up about them in your head.
So maybe I'm just reading into, she's thinking if a bigger person is healthy, maybe they don't want to change, maybe they don't care, and so that's fine too. But going back to your point about, number one, circling back to, I don't know where they land. Some of it seemed to be circular with dating's an issue and I wish it weren't this way, versus I'm happy the way I am. And you mentioned the whole, God may plop someone down right at our door or something. Yeah, I agree with you on a couple things. These are two totally different things. The idea that people who are overweight or heavier than the norm or the average or whatever should be mistreated is absolutely wrong. And the note I wrote here was, if I could make a magic wand and make that behavior go away, I would, right? I think the world would be a better place for it. And then there's the issue of dating, right? And never mind just dating for people who are big, fat, overweight, heavier, whatever. Dating for everyone is exactly the same. Mm-hmm. There is no monopoly on someone is guaranteed to get a date or a certain number of dates or a certain number of people who are attracted to them. Beauty is not objective. And I think that's lost on a lot of the points being made here. I don't think...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I don't think we can say it's not right that XYZ. And you listed a number of things. Quality.
That's literally what they're saying, bro. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is what they're saying, but I think it's their expectation. Like, I should have the same general experience as somebody who looks drastically different from me as it pertains to dating. I think that's their attitude.
Yeah. They then touch on, I made a note here about, Lyzeth was saying, in general, men don't find heavier women attractive. And then she says at 1040,
a woman who is by society standards skinny and dates a bigger guy, it's definitely much more acceptable, or sort of like, oh, he's big teddy bear or something, like there's these, kind of.
I think that's another very direct point about it being completely subjective, right? I don't know, I guess
it's also a lie, bro. It's also a lie. There's so many women. Like, the vast majority of women. If you ask them, so pull out your stupid magic wand again. I don't know why we're pulling out magic wands. Pull out your stupid magic wand again and ask a woman if you gave her a magic wand, would she date fucking John Goodman? No.
You can't say that. No. So you're not speaking in absolutes. You said that earlier, right? You're just saying,
of course.
A majority of women would say no.
Right. So let's just speak in general. I'm glad we're kind of taking it away from quote unquote size or weight or whatever. People date or people interact with like it's almost like economics, the market. You buy what you can afford, or you buy exactly what you want. But let's not assume that people who are buying what they can afford don't want that. They just aren't willing to spend the extra amount to get what they really, really want. And then vice versa. Let's not pretend that the people who spend a lot to get whatever, caviar or whatever, refuse to eat tuna fish. They just don't have to because they don't want to. I'm sorry. They don't have to, even though they would. Right? So in that analogy, would most women date John Goodman? Probably not. Not because he's completely disgusting and unattractive, but him versus George Clooney. George Clooney's going to win 9.8% of the time out of 10.
That made no sense. 98% of the time.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure how it didn't make sense.
You said 9.8%.
Oh, God, Jesus. Okay, great.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. Continue.
You know I wasn't saying 10% of the time, George Clooney, but anyway.
Okay, but we just talked about words have meaning. I wasn't expecting to do it about something you said. I was expecting to refer to things in the video.
It doesn't matter. I'm comfortable. I'm very, 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 very comfortable. My point is, George Clooney's going to win over John Goodman. That doesn't make John Goodman disgusting and unattractive.
My bigger point, exactly. Well, okay, maybe you're making the point. Yeah, there is no way you can only say that. Hey, right now in today's society, in this particular country, even because standards of beauty will change across country or differ across country, George Clooney is more attractive than John Goodman. And maybe that's the case, right? We cannot speak in absolutes, and we cannot say that George Clooney is objectively more attractive than John Goodman. We just, people that happen to agree with that, that's the way they feel. And I think that is what's lost on, a lot of this is you have your subjective view of even them. I guess that was something else I thought about. Presumably, they're looking for someone, and they have someone in mind. Someone that looks a certain way.
That is so fucking awesome. I would love to pay a very facially attractive guy who has one arm or one leg and like hairy knuckles or just like really hairy hands. Like remember Teen Wolf? He used to wear that like jean jacket and the hair would come from underneath the jacket onto his hands, right? Like just somebody who's just fucking different, right? We're not going to say grotesque or anything, just super different. Like, okay, date him. He has a great personality. Get to know him. Well, I don't want to get to know him because I'm not attracted to him. See? That just proves my point. Why can't that be? Why are we allowed, or why are we expected to accept that as a non-judgmental preference? Why can't people just not be attracted to fat women?
Yeah. And to your point about someone, we're going to say traditionally unattractive, right? A Teen Wolf hand coming out of a denim jacket or whatever. There are going to be people who are attracted to that. You made that point earlier. But all of a sudden, that group of, hey, me and my Teen Wolf hand, we're going to lobby for Teen Wolf hands being found attractive in general. Either subjectively, a majority of people are responding to what you're offering or they're not. I think that is it. And again, going back to, I may repeat this 10 times, I will always stand in your corner if you are being mistreated, right? Talking about the kids being mean, I would love to stop that. When I think about raising kids, there's no way that they will think that that's okay. But it's completely different from someone telling me what should be attractive to me. Those are, I don't know how far apart, but almost on the opposite ends of the spectrum of what's happening in the dating dynamic.
Right. And so did you get to the part where they referenced Lizzo at all?
I think they just did. It was something like, Lizzo's great. She talks about body positivity, or, just a symbol of body positivity. And then they mentioned how, actually sometimes she will also talk about breaking down. And I think it meant about being depressed, but I don't know. So you're saying you saw that part where they referred to it.
Right. And so it's like, at what point in time do you, like, what is your goal, I guess? That would be my question. My first question would be, what is your goal?
What is, because I think they gave me what their complaint is. Oh, man, there's a double standard in society. Whoop de fucking do. There's a double standard for everything and everybody. In every facet of life, there's a double standard, whether it be ethnicity, religion, weight, gender. Like women, I mean, I guarantee you men can come on. And but what's funny is they were making it seem like, oh, this is really a woman thing, as if fat men don't have the same experience.
Well, I think they tried to make that point, right? Again, anecdotally.
I don't think they. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, just the one bit where the whole, it's seen as acceptable if a skinnier or in shape woman is with a bigger guy, and it's like, oh, he's like a big teddy bear or whatever. I'm going to go back to, that's just what that girl or woman is attracted to, right? It is just her view on what an attractive man is, or she's made that decision like, I love this guy for who he is, looks included, right? But I'm not going to entertain, I don't want, again, not in absolutes, could be exceptions, but I'm not going to entertain the idea that in the main, on the whole, women are like, you know what? I'm actually not attracted to bigger guys, but I'm going to date them anyway.
So, again, for me, this all goes back to, like, are you, like, what is your problem? Because I think every demographic of human being in the society that I know deals with this. I know that if and when I ever talk to these people, I'm gonna cry about how me being an atheist doesn't get me laid. What do you want me to do? Tell people to stop having a preference for people who go to church? No, like, I get it. That's who you are. I'm not gonna cry about it. I'm just gonna get in where I fit in.
We may be repetitive at this point, but that group, right? So being an atheist and having difficulties dating because, you may be in a very Christian United States, it's the same thing. I guess I want that to be clear, whether it's repetitive or not. They also don't have the right to lobby for themselves to say, why doesn't the world change everything it thinks at the moment and find me attractive? As the words you use, right? Like, why isn't my dating pool equal to anyone else? Never mind traditionally skinny people or Christian people or whatever. It's just subjective, unfortunately. This is just an arena where it is subjective. And it raises an interesting point, I guess, because this may not be what people on the planet in 2022 find attractive in 3022. I don't know that it was the case in 1522 or in the year AD 22, right? I don't know what the world found attractive, but I would imagine it has changed somewhat. And so we can only interact with the world we have today. But it's not, again, it's not like there is an objective standard of beauty. So what made me think was, is this sort of, I use the word, I don't like the fact that it's not that I don't think you have a right to lobby. It just,
Right.
it falls on deaf ears with me.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
acknowledge
you
it,
do
I
have
guess.
the right to lobby. You do it because if you feel that people should be more open minded, I agree with you. But you have to then prove that people are being closed minded. How do you prove I like fat women?
That's one. Yeah. And also, if you have to state your case and make your case, and then the world has to respond, right? Here's why dating someone who is heavier is better than what you traditionally would have dated. And people can hear that out and go, wow, I never thought of that, and change their minds, or they can continue to respond the way they are. Like, whoever is attracted to someone who's heavier, whoever is attracted to someone who's an atheist, is going to continue to be. And no one else will change their mind.
Bro, I'm gonna tell you right now, and it's I'm gonna go back to the George Clooney, John Goodman thing. George Clooney getting more girls doesn't even mean that George Clooney is quote unquote more attractive, right?
Exactly.
Like, because if you literally lined up the last 10 women I've dated, you may see very little overlap in physical demographic. So yeah, let's just keep on the physical stuff, because intellectually there is a certain demographic that I just always go to. But physically, when it comes to, I've dated very thin women. I've dated, I have not dated anybody who was big, to be totally honest, right? Like and I'll be very honest with you. I'm not ashamed of it. I've definitely, the the downfall of some of my relationships was because that person decided that exercise and eating healthy was no longer something they wanted to do. So
But this
I was
goes back to the point that it is completely subjective, right? Who you date is who you want to date, and ultimately, I guess who you can date, right? It has to be reciprocal in some way, but it is not. It is always going. And to your bringing up the Clooney versus Goodman case again, you can't say the reason I was agreeing with you can't say that it makes that fact would make Clooney more attractive because it is always a singularly subjective experience. Each person has to look at that choice and say, each woman or each gay man or what have you would say, do I find Clooney more attractive than I find Goodman, or do I find Goodman more attractive than I find Clooney? And it's only true for them, completely subjective. Now, just because there's a majority, you're proposing a majority, and I guess I would agree, but that, yeah, it doesn't mean, oh, they're more attractive.
like, why? I guess I really want to know what their goal is, right? Are they really trying to say that they think that there should be a qualitative difference in how people look at the person that they're gonna look at naked, right? So, and I also hate this thing that looks is skin deep and it's not that big of a thing. Bro, I'm looking at you for the rest of my life. You're gonna lay in the bed next to me. I'm gonna see you naked. Like, stop pretending that this stuff is not important. Just stop. Because once again, because I'll put Teen Wolf in your bed butt naked tomorrow night, and let's see how you wake up screaming or not. Like, it's just weird. It's not weird. I think it's I think it's childish and it's short sighted to pretend. Because I would love to be a fly on the wall in a room full of plus size women who are talking about the men that they like, and I guarantee you, there's gonna be a type, right? Not all of them, right? Because fat women are not a monolith. We should just make a T-shirt. Blank 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 is not a monolith, but um, I guarantee you, one will have a type, right? And that type might not be a fat dude. And do they like string her up and beat her up? And hit her with like a pillowcase full of nickels.
Yeah, I think that's why I brought up the fact that you said one of them might have, everyone's going to have a type, every single person. And even if whatever you in your hypothetical where there's 10 plus size women who are describing their type, even if 8 or 7 or 9 out of 10 of them say, you know what, I like bigger guys, that's their type, period. Again, it is completely subjective. They're going to date who they want to date. No one is saying you have to date guys that are bigger.
Your size.
Yeah, no one. Absolutely no one.
They're also making a statement of why people are not attracted to them.
Yeah, so I took this note. At 14 minutes, Lyzeth says, sometimes it is a struggle. This is right coming off the back of the kids are mean point, right? And again, we completely agree. Like, you don't deserve to be mistreated. We're only talking about the dynamic of who will find you attractive.
Yeah, I really don't need to hear that anymore, Abdul. Thank you.
I'm doing it. I said it was repetitive, but we need to be clear here, right? Because if someone catches this
You've
in the
been
middle
clear
of it,
4 times.
it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's like a radio show. You don't know when people are tuning in.
Go ahead, sir.
So on the back of that, she says,
Because sometimes it is like a struggle or like a barrier that you have to overcome to think that someone is attracted to you despite you being fat. Like it's never because you're fat or because you have a great personality, because you're beautiful, because it's always more like, well, despite you being fat, he's into you.
and that is scary. Again, that's more than just lobbying. It's saying, yeah, I want you. No, I guess that is just lobbying, but I want someone to, not just I want someone to date me. I want them to date me because I'm overweight.
Which is I hope I'm not just repeating you, but which is the bullshit contradiction of stop looking at my body because that's not the most important part. They're just really making men out to be totally different animals.
And
Like men are
I,
just not
I'm
here.
willing to concede that.
Concede what?
I don't think there's evidence of that. Or that doesn't need to be the case. I'm willing to concede that, even if that's the point you're trying to make. It doesn't negate the fact that this is an individually subjective experience for everybody.
What are you willing to concede?
If you were going to say, oh, men are completely different animals than women, it doesn't matter. It still doesn't matter, because then within men as completely different animals, if I concede that to you, each man is still going to have their own subjective experience of what is attractive.
Right, but if they're saying that women don't judge men for their looks and men do, that's bullshit. That's my point. That it's a lie, right? It's a lie that women don't judge men for their looks. It's a lie that women don't leave men because of their lack of looks or lack of physical fitness.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that then. Yes, yeah. And your point about citation needed is most important.
Yeah, like what? I mean, it's citation needed for everything, but unfortunately, the truth of the matter is there is no citation in the world for this because, to the point that you've been beating to death, everything is subjective. So why are you crying about this?
It
Like,
keeps,
this really seems like a pity party to me because, like I said, I don't know if I touched on this already. If Lizzo can become as famous and as rich as she is, and you still admit that she has her moments of being frustrated and a little bit, despondent about, how, a lot of men won't date her because of her size. Like, I get a lot of chicks. I could cry as much as these two could because I also don't get a lot of chicks. Like, there are a lot of chicks who will not date me. Does that give me? I mean, should I then be saying this stuff? What's the difference between them and me? Truthfully, what is the difference between them and me? Seriously.
no, and again, everyone's going to have their own opinion of that, right? Everyone's going to have their own level of what would be acceptable. Like Paul gets to date X number of women versus Abdul only gets to date whatever number less.
Oh, like a percentage difference. Like my my possibility pool is 60%,
Yeah,
and yours is like 40%.
and everyone's going to decide that completely differently, right? Because it's not just two people in the world. You're going to say, it's really not fair. Everyone's going to have their own made up number of, it's really not cool that every third time we go out someone pulls someone. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think. And I guess this is a larger point for me. I have a real issue with, you can either observe what's going on in the world, have these subjective opinions about how you interact with the world, and respond to that,
Facts.
or you can go on the crusade you're trying to go on and literally change millions of people's minds.
Yeah, which is the easy one to do.
Yeah. And there are some things that can't be overcome, right? You brought up the point, like race. There are people who won't date outside of their own race. Why on earth would you try to say, I'm really attracted to that one person?
Let's just be honest here. You would never date somebody who runs the 1600 meters.
Who runs the 1600? Is that what you said?
What are you, slow today? It's a race joke.
Oh, I am slow. I literally.
I should have said steeplechase or something like that. Anyway.
I still would have missed it. Oh, man. Yeah. So even if you're really attracted to that person, why? Why would you waste any breath or energy saying, I really got to change your mind? I don't know. Some people make that into some sort of fantasy love story. Like, oh, and I persisted and oh man. And then she finally changed her mind. And it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to do that. To me, it's clear. Yes, we're all dealt a hand of cards, however you believe that happens. And you could either choose to upend the table or play the cards you're dealt. And some people have fantastic hands. Fine. Whether that's
Right. And so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's sorry. Yeah. In terms of attractiveness or whatever status in society or what have you, yeah, you could. Well, actually, it's not even a good analogy because there are many things you could quote unquote change your hand.
Right. I was that was the point I was going to make. So right, the 3 points parts to this conversation, I think, so far, maybe more. There's, play the cards you're dealt, although they're not the cards that were dealt to you, even if you have, because they even touch on it.
So it's like people are used to saying, well, I'm naturally skinny.
They have a natural propensity to not gain weight. Nobody's naturally skinny. Like if you lift weights and run marathons and you can eat 3 pizzas a day, then that's not natural. It's not natural for you to run 2 marathons or a marathon a day.
Yeah.
And so what happens is they even said some people are naturally skinny, and that's once again not true.
Yeah, I want to go back to that. That's one of my issues without pressing too hard is when it started to go, Martina was starting to talk about it doesn't necessarily correlate with health. That's fine. And she used whether she, was careful about her wording or it's just she was naturally correct about it. She said a number of people, right? A number of skinny people eat really fucked up. A number of big people do work out, don't have diabetes, don't have hypertension. I just quoted one study here. This was done by the NIH and it looked at people with different, now I guess people have issue with BMI, but they're just classing people into different weights. What they said: normal, overweight, obesity class 1, obesity class 2, and obesity class 3. For normal weight individuals, which is BMI less than 25, it was 8% prevalence of diabetes. For those with obesity class 3, which is the opposite end of the spectrum, that's equal to 40 BMI, 43%. So you're 5 times as likely as your BMI increases from that first class all the way to the last class, 5 times as likely to have diabetes. So of course, a number of people that are in that obesity class 3 don't have diabetes, don't have hypertension. But I think it was dangerous to say, oh, you know what, don't correlate weight or size with health, because there unfortunately is. The result of that study is that, yes, as you gain weight, it is more dangerous for your body as it pertains to
Right.
diabetes.
But at the end of the day, unless somebody is thinking about dating you, nobody cares. But unfortunately, that's the point of this conversation. So,
Well, she brought it up because she was saying,
no, you're right. You're right.
no. I'm not just saying like, well, she started it. That's not my point. She brought it up because it stemmed from this, where do we get this idea that skinny is better, right? And she was trying to say like, oh, if it's because it's associated with health, that's just not true. And we should do away with that, right? I want to separate those two things, agreed. But I don't think you can dismiss that size or weight is associated with health.
This also is subjective, right? Like you can't get mad at. No, that is true because you and I get mad. Just to be fair, you and I do get mad at people for erroneous thought processes, which is why we have a channel called
Exactly.
Racking Our Brains, right? So even if we all were like, okay, no, you being fat doesn't automatically make you out of shape. Okay, that still doesn't change anything. If you want to be fat or if you're comfortable with being fat, forget about wanting to be fat because that's a little more difficult to even have a conversation about. But if you're comfortable being fat in the sense that you don't want to run any marathon, be fat, cool. But don't pretend that other people can't have an opinion about that. Right? Like, again, like, I think not just she, but I think people in this situation who are complaining about the rest of the world's opinion of them should just get in where they fit in. I mean, if I had one response to everything that they say, just get in where you fit in. Stop pretending that you need to be somewhere else other than where you are in society. Because really what you're doing is you're asking other people to not placate, but cater to you. That's what really comes across in this fucking video. is that they're asking the world, or a larger percentage of the world, right? Because they had also admit in the video that there are men out there who love big women and who date big women.
Well,
So why are you not one of them?
yeah.
Right? Like, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, just go out there and find that dude. If you admit that he's out there, what the fuck are you crying about?
Well, so that was interesting. This is a little away from the topic of what dating is like for bigger women specifically, but Martina started to talk about people telling her what she needs to do. So I wrote this note that I was paraphrasing what she was saying. This happened sometime around 18 minutes in the video. And she said,
just the thing, and people like, well, what are you doing? Are you like going out and meeting people and talking to people? And I'm like, listen, that may not be for everybody. Again, that's a very extroverted thing to think that like you gotta leave your house.
And all of that's after both of them make the joke about
He's gonna show. God's gonna put him in front of my door, and that's gonna be
He's
fine.
gonna plop him right down.
Bro, I wrote that down. I got so angry.
I know. That's a tangent for this discussion, as much as I wanted to return to our roots about religion and religiosity. But
no, we're good. We're good.
What she says is fine, but you have to acknowledge that you've made dating more difficult. And then she continues.
Well, hell, in this day and age, like you said, we have apps and things, which are also really weird. And apps are really twisted.
Weird. I can't do. I don't know. I've tried.
The apps are weird.
You know, I've tried.
Again, that's totally cool. If that's the way you feel about online dating and the way you feel about leaving the house, you have to understand that the scope of your ability to date has shrunk massively. And again, this is where I go back to, I don't really know what the complaint is, especially for Martina in that case. And I feel bad. Like if it's something like I just can't find true love, I feel bad. But it's difficult also to have that much empathy when, imagine she said, I'm not going to do absolutely anything. I'm not going to pick up an app. I'm not going to go out. I'm not even going to talk about it. But I will internally be really upset that no one's going to come around. How can you empathize with that, right?
Right. Yeah. Like, what? Bro, I don't know what we're doing. That's what I'm saying. Like, in my conversation with them, I first need to understand, what is your genuine goal with this conversation, other than to lament the fact that you happen to be in a demographic that is on the lower end of the preferability, spectrum. That's it. You just happen to be that. And the truth is, you don't have to be that. They talked about losing weight. They talked about how hard it is. Cool. Lose weight for yourself on your own time, but don't be mad about how the world feels about it. That's like goth kids, right? Goth kids can't walk around and say, bro, I'm goth. What's the big deal? You should love me the same way you love the fucking, anime kids or the jocks. No. You don't get to do that. You get to be yourself and deal with the consequences.
Yeah, I often think about, in response to any case where it's a matter of, as you said, the world isn't finding me attractive, acceptable, etc., whatever. And I mentioned earlier, like, presumably Martina and Lyzeth have a type. When they think of someone they would want to date, maybe not, I could be wrong. Maybe it's a vast spectrum of physical appearance. But presumably there's a range. And there are some things that they won't be attracted to. I just don't like guys with tattoos. I just don't like guys. And the one I go to is body modification, right? If someone beyond tattoos is doing things that are very, very outside the norm, like they're tattooing their eyeballs black, right? The whites of their eyes black, and they're putting in fangs, and they've put in like devil horns in their forehead, and like weird.
Those are actually pretty cool.
Weird, like, I don't know, wing stubs on their shoulders or something, right? Like, there could be things that you may be like, that's just not for me. But in the same way, I would beg Martina and Lyzeth to say, would you say that that person has a right to be angry with you or upset with you or annoyed with you, to say, why won't you find me attractive? They've made that choice. If going back to saying, whether or not this is a choice for people, but in the body modification case, it is. They've made a particular choice about the way they want to look. You can't then also say, by the way, everyone else has to change their minds right now. It just doesn't work.
Right.
My hope, again, I I don't want to think this was just a venting thing. I imagine they want to feel like, hey, there's somebody out for me. They said it specifically. God may just plop someone down at my door. They're looking for love in some sense, ultimately. They talk about this as dating now. They're younger. So, again, it may just be something fleeting and something to occupy their time that they're looking for. But I imagine ultimately this is about finding someone to fall in love with. And
Did you hear? I'm sorry, but really quickly, did you hear that the one on the left was like, "No, I'm not going to date a younger guy."
yes, yeah, I did. I did.
So I mean,
I don't even know why that was a thing, though. Do you know why she brought that up? I forget.
oh, she was making the stereotype of how men date younger women, like even when they get older or whatever. And I'm like, oh, so I also wrote this down. Hold on.
Before you go there, I just wanted to
Go
say
ahead.
I do hope that they make some choices like, okay, I don't like leaving the house if that's the way she feels. Maybe once in a while, like, okay, the apps aren't working. Maybe you find a different app. I do hope you do enough to feel like I'm trying to find someone if it's really what you want. But again, it's difficult to imagine if there's no effort put forth. It's hard to feel sorry or, you know, feelings for someone who is, complaining about not finding someone when they aren't trying to actually find someone.
So I wrote this because I said, the men who she's saying are a problem. How does she know what their underlying reasons are?
Well, again, some of it was so nebulous that I don't know that she said anything specific about there are a group of men that are a problem, right? It was this very, in general, people don't find people who are overweight attractive. At 1645, 1635.
I'm like, oh, even though you're fat, you're very pretty. I was like,
So pretty.
where in what world does that one equate the other? Like, and I think that's where um the idea of accepting your body, accepting it is it's frowned upon a lot of
Mhm.
times. Right. And people are like, well, how can you accept something that is
So
ugly?
disgusted. Right. They seem so disgusting that you accept yourself.
And it's like, but I'm beautiful. Why me being big have anything to do with anything else? How is it impacting you in any way,
Yeah.
shape, or form?
Like, it's this very like rolling, I'm upset with the way people think, but I'm comfortable with the way I am, and why does that bother you? I I don't know what the overall tone of this thing. So to your question or point about there are men who think a certain way. Some of it was society in general, some of it was men, some of it was women who date big guys, some of it was a big woman who is married to an in shape guy or whatever. It was kind of all over the place. And you mentioned the term pity party. I hate to think of it like that, but yeah, some of it came off like a venting of it is just difficult. In general, dating as a bigger person, it is just difficult. And again, I don't think there's any right or wrong. I think that's just a matter of fact. And it goes back to our point about this being subjective and not objective.
I don't know about you, but a good percentage of what I do is based on how women are going to receive it. I don't think I'm a naturally evil or heinous person, but I know for a fact that I go out of my way to do things that keep me attractive and or palatable to the women that I'm attracted to. I am not going to do anything to subvert or subject or jeopardize my marketability to the women I find attractive because
So
it's important to me. It's also important to me that my friends respect me, that my friends and family like and respect me, right? But if we're just going to talk about the whole dating scene,
wait,
you know,
hold on. Let's be careful there too, because it almost sounded like you were going to make Martina's point where you're just dating people to make your friends or family happy, or to impress. That's not what you meant,
not
right?
even close.
There's other things about you and your.
No. Wait, stop. Not even close. I'm
Yeah,
not talking about my preference of who I date. I'm talking about my behavior.
right.
So what I'm saying is, I
That's
treat
a good
people with respect because I want people to like me. Like I could want fat women to like me.
I'm talking about the fact that I treat people with respect, that I'm not a misogynistic pig, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
not a misogynistic pig who only values skinny, ultra traditionally attractive women, right? I value everybody for who they are as people, regardless of my dating preference.
Yeah, but I want to go back to your point. I think you phrased it really well. Um, you make a choice. You realize there is a population of women you're attracted to, and you do what you want to do in your power to make yourself more palatable, was the words you used, to that population of women, right? You have a limit. Presumably, if there's a woman you found attractive and she was really into guys that kick dogs, you wouldn't kick a dog, right?
I mean, how attractive are we talking?
Such a fucking asshole. As soon as I said it, I was like, this motherfucker's going to go with this. I know it. You have a limit, whatever it is. Hopefully kicking dogs is on it. Please don't kick
Well,
dogs.
you know how I feel about dogs.
Yeah, right. You have a limit. And I think that is part of also the overall point. Acknowledging that this is subjective, acknowledging that you also have a type, or anyone has a type, and you understand that they will have a type. You have a decision to make. Either you can say, wow, I'm really into that person or that group of people or people who are like this, and these are the things that they're into. And you make the choice to say, I'm going to do that because that matters that much to me, or no, I have a limit and that's not what I want to do. And if you say that's beyond my limit, you have to acknowledge that your pool has just changed. It's not going to include those people that you are really attracted to. And that is now a new decision. Or maybe this is just a feedback loop, or it's circular. Like, where do you really want to end up? In a place where you feel like, man, I have to do a lot of work to get what I want. And I guess this was what the analogy you made a while ago. Or do I want to accept what I can get with little to no work?